Hello, friends. So happy to have you here with me today at Radical Joy. If you've been here before, welcome back. If this is your first time with us, well, we're glad you're here. Each week, we're here with you talking to ourselves about things that weigh on our minds and hearts, hoping if you're dealing with something similar, we can adjust our perspectives as you listen. Hey, if you're struggling with something that needs immediate attention, please know that help is available. Just dial 988 nationwide in the U.S. to reach the Mental Health and Suicide Crisis Hotline. All of us here at CLW Studios believe that mental health is a vital part of our well being. The more people we meet and the more places we go, the more we realize how important it is to make people aware of the fact that there is no shame in enjoying the parts of our lives that are incredible. It's time for some radical joy. And this week, the three fingers pointing back at us are for Jonathan Gregg. Jonathan lives in New York with his wife and two children. When he's not dadding, he spends his days working as the director of operations for a spirits portfolio, which is a fancy way of saying he oversees booze getting out into bottles and sent to stores. He spends his free time doing stand up comedy and making content for social media. His content centers around punching Nazis, perfecting the Dutch braid, and offering tips for painting your nails. After all, you cannot spell manicure without man. You can follow him at jgregg, that's two G's, underscore Jonathan. And we'll make sure to put all of that in the show notes. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Jonathan Gregg.
Hello, hello.
Hey,
Thank you so much
buddy.
for being here, man.
Oh my God, it's great to have you on the show.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming to join us. Jonathan and I have known each other for a long time. We worked together in a fine dining establishment in New York City, directly across the street from Carnegie Hall. And it was a sad day when Jonathan outgrew that position and moved on to bigger and better and flashier and funner. Along the way, it's been so great to watch his progress because not only is he wildly successful in entertainment as well as film and television, his stand up career is fantastic. And his presence in social media not only has a tremendous following, but the message he puts out to the world is absolutely incredible. I continue to marvel and awe at the good he has the potential and continues to put out into the world. So, without getting too deep in here, what I would love to say is just thank you for what it is you're doing, because I think that what you have to offer is what a lot of people are really jumping on board with, especially now.
What's so funny about that is I don't know why you just read the notes I had to say about you. I don't know. I don't know how you got a hold of that copy, but uh, no, it's funny to hear that and think about my own perspective and how it is nice to hear those things because for the many years of since we met, a lot of it was just throwing stuff at the wall, trying to see if I could make anything work here in New York, and then in the past few years, something that actually meant more to me has kind of latched, and clearly the most success. And we could debate the term success all day long, but the most success that I've found seems to be in these arenas where I really feel connected to it, not just as an actor or performer, but like actually my own spirit, my own self coming through it, which, I guess is what they've always said to us. If you can connect to it, and I think that you're an embodiment of that as well. When you can connect to it is where it's going to take off.
Agree. And that's the thing. Like people, we continue to say these things. And yeah, we've had a million teachers and mentors that have said exactly the same thing. If you can really connect, if you can find that authenticity, that sincerity is whenever you can expect everything to start to happen. And we keep trying to fit ourselves into a role because that's what pays the bills. And then now with the advance of social media into the mainstream entertainment sphere, it is much easier to be exactly who you are and say what you want, and people really connect with it because it's clear that that is the message that you were put on the earth to send.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny to look at when I look at my performance career versus social media and the combination of those two. Really, my first, I've been an actor in New York for 20 years, and for most of that time, social media, for I don't know, half that time, social media existed, and everyone from agents to casting directors to producers would say, you need to have a footprint, you need to have a following, we need that presence for you to make a difference, for you to make any kind of splash on our side of things. And so for years, I was just throwing stuff at the wall. I was always trying to find something that would latch and something that would hook and something that would grab people. And then I'm not kidding, and we can get in the weeds about this or not, but I am not kidding that when the week before my first reel, which was the fall of 20 whatever 2 years ago, I don't know what year it is, but 2 years ago in the fall, the first time I had a reel that went viral was, I'm not kidding, a week after I had decided that I was gonna kind of retire from acting. I was gonna take a real break so that I could focus on my kids and focus on the family. And I had had years of being a successful actor to the degree that I had a lot of fun and been on some cool sets and done some cool productions. But I think inarguably you could see that I was a financially unsuccessful actor. I needed to do something else that brought in some more money for my family and could change my kind of perspective of the family. And I'm not kidding, like the week that I had finally got my head around the idea that I could step away from the business for a minute, and I was okay doing that, and I was really okay letting go. 3 days after I had that full conversation with myself, I had a reel with, I don't know, a couple 100,000 views, and I picked up 10,000 followers overnight, and then I just went from there. And I thought, well, I mean, okay, all right, I guess I'm still here. And the good news, like you said, the good news about that was I got to do my own stuff. And since then, it's been me, there's been plenty of ups and downs and backs and forths and all the things that go with any kind of production of any kind at all. But it has been really, it's felt really fulfilling for me to actually get to do my own stuff with my own voice, produced by me, directed by me. If it goes out, great. If it doesn't, great. It's up to me, and that's been the fun part of it for sure.
Yes, and it is so fun to watch for many reasons because there is this wonderful, wholesome, lighthearted side that has just a little bit of healthy competition and just a little bit of fear in it. The stuff that you put out about learning to style your daughter's hair is so fun. The way plus the kid has like amazing delivery. The timing on your daughter just boggles my mind. It's like, wow. I've known people that have been classes in improv for years that couldn't give that kind of response and that sort of timing. That was beautiful. But like, could you let our listeners in on a little bit of that story? Because it's you can tell it so much better than I ever tried.
Sure. Well, so that first reel that I mentioned that went viral, it was kind of generational stuff. I was kind of mocking our grandparents, the boomers of the world, kind of the grandparents of the world, having two small children. I was kind of sarcastically and parodying the idea that we are now raising soft grandparents. And that was its own thing, and that was funny, and made a splash. And then after I made that splash, I thought, well, cool, now I have an audience. Let's see what else I can do. And I was just throwing out some thoughts and some things that I had in mind. And then again, the thing that was like felt most authentic. And yeah, I put some storytelling to it and some performance to it. But the truth is, my daughter at the time was in a 2-year-old class at a Montessori school here in New York, and her teacher, Miss Yolanda, is this Ecuadorian woman, and she's a lovely, lovely woman. But I was always the drop off and pick up parent. My wife works. Her job starts before they go to school and ends after they get done with school. So I'm responsible for pick up and drop off. And I just didn't want to be the kind of dad who sends a daughter to school with ratty hair. And I think that as a quick side note, it fits great into what you do here because, like, I've never understood men who need their lawn to look perfect and they need their car to be washed, but they don't care about their kids' hair. Like, you can't take time to learn how to brush hair and do a ponytail, and like, God forbid you step it up a little and learn how to braid hair. So I had done that. I had put some time in to doing my daughter's hair, and I had fun with it because I wanted her going to school looking nice. Um, and then uh, so what happened is I picked her up one day, and she also, my daughter, you're not kidding about her timing. She has a comedic timing. She also has a creative imagination and uses that to the degree that some people might call it lying, but when you're a 2 or 3 year old brain, I don't think you call it lying. You just call it creative thinking, right?
Right.
Creative storytelling. So she would tell some interesting stories at school some days, and Miss Yolanda would sometimes fact check those with me after school. And often my daughter was just making up some kind of creative storytelling in the process. But one day I picked her up, and Miss Yolanda, with the most incredulous tone in her voice, she said, "So, Sydney today said that Dad did her hair, and it was like a pretty nice little braid." And I said, "Dad did do her hair." And she was like, "Oh, okay, sorry." But then, from that moment on, when I would go, I would do something fun in her hair, and I go pick Sydney up from school, and it would be redone in a much nicer double French braid, or tiara French, or like a asymmetric Dutch, whatever. And I was like, it was really kind of throwing me off. And I found it hard to believe that this wasn't Yolanda uh, kind of checking me and making sure I knew, making sure that I
Yeah.
was humbled in this process, that I wasn't getting too big for my britches. And it became its own thing, that I would send her to school with one hairstyle, which, look, the truth is, Yolanda was way better at doing hair. That she's a woman who's been doing hair her entire life, and she's great at it. And also, the truth is, I love that she would do it. What was happening is my daughter would take a nap or be wild on the playground or whatever, and her hair would get all messed up. And so instead of having just a rat's nest when she came home, Yolanda would fix her hair for her. But I did notice that Yolanda always liked to pump it up a little bit and really send
Oh
her
yeah.
home with an improved hairstyle, which I took as a little bit of a personal affront.
To hear you speak about this on your socials is hysterical because Sydney's in the back and she's like, you're in the front, trying to play it really, really cool, but we can see your face. She's like, so, who did your hair? It's Yolanda. You're
Yeah,
like,
and there's a really,
ah,
it's funny because the original Miss Yolanda, reel was pretty big. It got a couple million views, but the one that really got, I want to say, and I'm making this up, I could be totally wrong. I want to say 11 plus million views at this point is exactly that. It's just me sitting in the front seat, finding out that it's not just Miss Yolanda who does the hair, it's also Miss Kimberly. And
yeah.
so just just over and over, my daughter just saying, I said, "Who did your hair, Miss Kimberly?" So now I got two of them to deal with. Now I
Now
got
we got
Yolanda
two.
and Kimberly to deal with. Yeah.
Oh, they're in
Yeah.
cahoots.
Yeah. There's no rest for the weary, man. You can't let your defenses down for a moment.
And that's the thing. And I love that so much because you touched on it, and I want to come back on it and just kind of dig in it just a little bit more. If a man is so incredibly focused on making sure that his lawn is perfect or his car is always immaculate or these kind of things, why in the world would he not send his offspring in the world the very best condition that he could? It's one of those things where it's ownership, not of your children, clearly, because they're their own people, but ownership of the fact that they're in my charge. And people out there, I want to make sure that I send them out to the world as well prepared as I possibly can, including the way they look. And yeah, dad can work a Dutch braid. Help me out. What are some of these? Because
Yeah.
you mentioned, I was like, these sound fantastic. They sound
The
like
fr
bread.
the French and the Dutch are basically the same thing. It's when it's pulled back bit by bit along the way, not just one thing at the back. But the French goes over the top and Dutch goes underneath. So as the braid goes, you can look at it and you can see which is which. Kind of the Viking braid is it's a flip underneath the plate, as you would. The plate would be an underneath plate. The French plate is an over the top plate. I'm not great at either of them, but I have been working on them.
Buddy, all I'm asking is the effort. It is clear that it is there, and I love it. It is wonderful, and it's that bonding thing too. Like whenever you
Yeah.
take that care, that time, it resonates. Now she's very young; she can't necessarily tell you about that, but I can promise you, the thing that matters most is the time that you put into it, and that's amazing.
And that's really
And
the truth. At the end of, yeah, sure, it's really fun that it took off on social media, and I have a lot of fun with it. And I really do like doing. Like you said, I like sending my kids out into the world as representatives of themselves. They can't do their own hair yet; they need help with that. So I want to make sure they're looking good and that they feel confident out in the world. But also, like you said, this is the long con for me, right? Like I want, first of all, both of my kids. I have a son and a daughter. I want both of them seeing that dads can do hair, and I want to have that bond available with my daughter. And I don't want to put it all on mom's shoulders. I don't want it to be a thing that only mom can do and she's responsible for all the time. And also, I want to have that opportunity later in life. If there's a time that whatever she's a teenager and needs her hair done, and dad can do that. Like I think that's a thing I want to make sure. So I'm practicing along the way with the intent of having an older daughter who still knows that I can do her hair. That's the reasoning behind all of it. And like you were saying about the more toxic side of masculinity, I think part of the problem, and really one of the problems across the board with that, is that it's so short-sighted, and it really is. It's so boxed in. So you have these ideas of, like you said, like taking pride in something, but not something that's woman's work, or not something that like might be on the edge of your sexual preferences or whatever, for some kind of label that's been around for a long time. So it's just like, to me, most of the toxicity is based in like being able to see exactly where evolution and progression stopped, and someone who's not interested in learning more and not interested in growing, because it's all the same, like pride in what you do, competition, all of those things are the same, their same root. I've got an angry streak that I'm always working on. I am a competitive dude, but I don't mind exploring that in a fun way and not keeping it so tight and so bound by these I don't know, regressive parameters that I can't get bigger than that. And I think it's frankly, I when I started when my following grew and grew, I was getting a little nervous about, there's imposter syndrome that comes in, and then there's like the chance to make money off of it. Then it feels exploitative, and it's a weird kind of place to be. Except I realized, no, I'm going to own this as best I can, because what I'm doing is capitalizing on, maybe even exploiting, but capitalizing on those extra steps that other regressive thinking men can't take. So yeah, my lawn looks great, but I can't compete with all the guys on their what their lawns look like. But if I have the chance to play in a whole new ball game that no one else is playing in, great. I mean, I think that we all know too that dads catch a big break. A dad who is engaged is all of a sudden a super dad, because the standards for so long have been
So low.
so out of balance, just so out of balance. So
Yes.
frankly, yeah, I think it still says my Instagram page bio says monetizing the weakness of men, or capitalizing on the weakness of men. Oh, no, weaponizing the weakness of men. That's what it is.
There you are.
Because there are these spots that if you don't sit in a regressive thinking pattern, there's opportunity. There's gold in them there hills. Like it's ripe for expansion, and too many dudes are just too afraid to take those steps. And so I'll do it.
Amen. Well, and that's the thing too. Like, just from, let me just go off on my own little tangent here. The aesthetic that you have is also very much a dude. Like, you are so much that person. You have been for me for years. And so for you to walk into this and like, look, I don't care what the rest of you are thinking about this. This is what I'm doing because I care about my family and I care about my children a lot more than I care about my own ideas that may or may not be antiquated about my own masculinity and how I present. Not to mention, what you're showing these men on how to be better men is great. What you are teaching your daughter about gender roles and how much of that is so much made up fluff BS is the most important part. Maybe you talk about it, maybe you don't. There's always so much more impact in action than there will ever be in words. Words are cheap, and I know that is a hoot coming from somebody like me who can breathe through his eyelids to continue speaking. Actions always stand out and stand stronger than anything that you tell your children, especially at that age.
Well, just to push
Brilliant.
back a little bit,
Yeah.
you walk your talk through and through. So you are great at the talk, but you also walk it. So just don't sell yourself at all short on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And while we're talking about these children, I love what you're doing to show up for Sydney. But now, one thing that really strikes hard and strikes deep with me is the fact what you're doing for your son, or as inspiration through your son, your paint nails and punch Nazis campaign, if it's okay to call it that. I am
Sure.
all
Yeah.
on board. We're both wearing our shirts today for anybody who's looking.
Yeah.
I got one of the first. I'm very excited about it. As soon as I saw that on his social media, I was like, I need to own that yesterday. And honestly, I was kind of surprised that it got to me as quickly as it did, me being in the Netherlands, but wow. Yeah. So
Um,
yeah, please take it away. Tell us more about that. I am wrapped.
well, so and I guess it's a little bit layered, but it is. Yeah, I recognize that I present. I'm from Alabama, just like you. We're from the deep, deep, and so there's, growing up, I was not looked at as the masculine kid. Growing up, I was the kid who did theater. I was the kid who took dance class. I also played sports, but because I did those other things at all, there was no chance to recognize the duality or multiplicity of life at that time. You had to hold one thing as true, and that was it. You could not balance two truths at the same time at that point. So yeah, sure, I played sports, but I also did theater, which put me on the edge of masculinity, on the backside of being masculine. And also, like, I bucked against that for a long time because I hated that part of it. So I kind of also bucked against the entirety of masculinity as it is portrayed in the South. So the manly anythings. And as I got older, and as I was away from the toxic parts of that for longer, as I was away from the angrier and the more scared parts of that, I realized I love driving a Jeep. I love cutting my grass. I love having multiple grills that do different things. There's some masculine and, like, not even evolved stuff. Like, yeah, like base level masculine stuff that I really enjoy. I've just been able to untether that from the fear and not even fully untether, to be clear. Like, I recognize it. I recognize so many of the things I get angry about are just from a place of fear, fear of losing what little bit of possession I think I hold, fear of, really of having the biggest fear is that my fears of myself are going to be validated by someone else. So that when I think someone is telling me that I'm not worthy, frankly, it happens with my kids all the time. When they talk back to me, I still go through the trigger of, now I've been able to break it down and I can tell more systemically, but in the quick reaction in my head is that I'm being confronted and I'm being challenged, and the space that my being takes up is being threatened, and I might lose that. And I go to snap back at them, and then I realize, wait, man, that's just layers and layers of fear that have been built in that I just have to like get out of the way. And their only, well, not their only hope, but one of their biggest hopes of being able to come through this world without that is for me to not show it to them. Like you were talking about actions over words, like frankly, that's the hardest part. I can talk the talk all day long, and my son loves doing my daughter's hair too. So I love that we've kind of bucked those norms already. And he's in public school now, and he used to love painting his nails with me, and he has not said anything about it being like off the table, but he's gotten less into it. And that's fine. I don't want to push him in a way that makes him uncomfortable. I'm just going to keep doing it myself so that he can see a dude who frankly pops up and yells at him sometimes, who has taught him to throw a baseball, who smokes meat, and cuts grass, also has painted nails sometimes. And
Yeah.
all of that is the nail kind of side of it. And I mean, I don't know, as radical joy, I don't know how joyful it is to spend too long in politics, but it's hard to separate politics from social issues these days. And frankly, when the election went the way it went, I was really disappointed. I think that's speaking of how to model for our children. I think it's a horrible way to model anything for our children, really on any side of the coin, on a moral side, on a business side, just a horrible way to model for our children. So I was already disappointed in that. And then it, inauguration came around, and whatever you think about whatever happened, Nazis re-entered the conversation. All of a sudden, there were Nazis again. Whatever you want to say about any specific moment, it is inarguable that there were Nazis present again all of a sudden.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
so it's one of those things, and this is some of that probably that root masculinity stuff too. Is one of the things that I don't always align with when it comes to progressive thinking or liberal thinking is a nonviolent path. I'm all for leading that way as long as possible. But I also firmly believe that Nazis should get punched. Uh,
Amen.
I said, and I don't promote on its own violence, but I said if we don't punch Nazis now, we're gonna have to shoot them later. We gotta. That's it's a group of people, and it's not like Methodists. It's not like
Okay.
Oregonians. It's not like just
Thank
a
you.
group I don't like. It's like no. As a group, these people have agreed to hate other people and to use violence and fear to stop and to rid themselves of other people. So I
Yes.
got no problem punching Nazis. So
100%.
the
And
combination of those two, yeah, the paint nails and punching Nazis. I don't know, it flowed and it worked and people seem to connect with it.
buddy, do I ever. And whenever I wear this shirt to the gym, which is often, people are always, they love it. They think, oh, and then they think I'm some sort of aggressive whatever. I was like, you and I have no beef, but make no mistake, there's a line in the sand. Should you cross it, I promise you, I will not be the instigator. I will be the concluder. This is not punishment. This is consequences. You
Yeah,
made a choice. You weren't born to this. Somehow
yeah,
along the way, you learned something unacceptable. And I was fine for years talking and talking and talking. I am exhausted. I am angry and I am no longer tolerant of that kind of horse shit. So that's just where I stand on it. And I back you 112% on it. I'm not here to make a problem. I'm here to make sure that our future generations don't suffer from the problems that people think are okay to present now to some of our most marginalized and exposed populations, not flipping having it.
yeah.
Okay, I'm fine.
That's that's a great way to put it. And but also like I love the I think one of the reasons we connect is that we check so many of the same boxes that it there also has been I think a narrative created. It's kind of the other side of the toxic masculine or just the idea of masculinity that can bleed into toxicity. The other side of that is that a liberal soy boy, weak someone who can be walked over, some kind of like wallflower who has some progressive thoughts but can't do anything to stand behind those. And I'm just not that person.
No.
I have a few pretty intense fights under my belt throughout my lifetime. Like I got no problem standing up for what I believe in. And again, that doesn't mean intimidating people at the polls. It doesn't mean fighting with someone whose political affiliation is different than mine. It means if you align yourself with a group of people who will, or whose intent is to eradicate marginalized groups of people, I've got no problem fighting you.
Thank you. Exactly it. My dad taught me from a very young age as well. Like, I have not been in a whole lot of fights. I'll be honest with you. It's just never really anything that came up on the radar. Ed Bullard taught me from a young age that, look, you may not ever be the biggest man in a fight, which is why we never fight fair. You find something to swing at that sumbitch. He says, don't you ever try to walk into there with fists, because 9 times out of 10, he will put you on your butt. You make sure you have a way to walk away. It's like, yes, sir. All right.
I love that.
I do. Ed Bullard has taught me so many things over the years. I'm like, all right, great. And it's just, for so long, we were taught to be good people.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, not fighting also equals good people. Always look for the peaceful way out. 100% yes. And gosh knows we love that. If there was a way to sit around a round table and have a very earnest discussion so that everyone learns more about one another, so we have no reason to come to those kind of things. That is no longer where many of us are any longer. So it's going to come down to like, okay, you can learn the easy way, and it's the thing that I love that you said as well about like these layers of fear and whatnot, and being whatever people want to call like a soy boy or a libtard or any of the other kind of things. I'm like, friend, I'm not afraid to wash my butt because you think it's gay to slide a bar of soap between your cheeks. Okay, so let's just call it what it is whenever we get down to it. That is a life led and enforced by fear. For so many little tiny things. It's like nobody complains about me stinking in weird spots because I would never even ponder something like that. But there are so many of those little, like, almost like wives' tale kind of things. Well, if you do that, well, I was like, okay.
And clearly, I think plenty of people smarter than me are saying it. We are dealing with the repercussions of that kind of mentality, of that boxed in, that fear-based mentality, because also what it means is dudes can't have close dude friends. You can't be physically affectionate without a man without being gay, and being gay is wrong. And like, there's so many, you can't even be the little spoon sometimes, and men need to be held sometimes, dude, like, and for some reason there's been this idea built around like you gotta be a strong rock, and that the equivalent of that is squeeze it all in. Don't think about it. Don't show it for sure. Keep it all in tight. And to me, that is just the opposite of a strong rock. That is I don't know, a tiny little scared box. And I think we see that over and over again. The guys who are famous, kind of the poster children for that style of thinking, continue to pick fights with people that weren't dealing with them at all. Like Andrew Tate trying to like start Twitter beef with Greta Thunberg, and then like it's like what were you doing, man? Like, why did you need to go? Like, no one was talking to you. You did that all on your own. Like, and now you're in Romanian prison. Well, not now, because now we have also a scared person who brought that scared person to America. Anyway, it seems like such an easily owned mentality, and somehow the only thing that kind of thinking person has been able to do is take over and steer the narrative. And that's what I think you're doing here to change that, and that's what I would like to do here to change it, is like that it's just a total false narrative that there's strength in that, because it's only fear and weakness.
Agree. Well, and the thing that we try to talk about this pretty frequently here as well, especially, being a dude podcaster, I'm like, it is unfair, and it is probably also a huge disservice to any man who tries to get his partner to be the end all be all of his affection and needs in another human being. You need a tribe. There are certain things your partner can help you with that are going to make you a better man, a stronger, more solid human being and an individual. That is wonderful. To think that she is going to be able to put all of herself into you and vice versa, it is unfair. And somebody, more honestly, more often than not, everybody is going to have a problem with that, because you can't be everything to anyone. You can be a whole lot. You can be the sun rose and set. You cannot be everything. And to think, some of my most incredible friends are the ones who I would not hesitate to squeeze the ever-loving life out of them whenever I see them. And they crush me. And it is the contact. It is that part of us that is just like, yes, you are wild and you are crazy and whatever. And there's a part of you, like you said, and I love it. Sometimes you just want to be held. Sometimes you just need to be the little spoon, and there is no shame or any kind of embarrassment in something like that. The role that you continue to be forced into does not fit everyone at all times. And leaving yourself open to being more, to growing past, and showing everyone that, like, a real man just decides and tells his partner and the people in his life what he needs, and he has faith that they will find someone in that circle to help him do it. And I think that's just a much more evolved and quite frankly just way of looking for it, because you breed a lot of resentment whenever you try to look for everything you need out of one person, even if that is the person who's promised to love you for the rest of their lives. You need folks, not just one.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more with that. And yeah, you're right that anytime you try to put that all out on one person or whatever it is, if you're not aware of my therapist always said feelings aren't bad. She's always saying that feelings aren't bad. Now you're responsible for what you do with those after the fact, but feelings are feelings and they're neither good nor bad. So having some curiosity, again, being willing to learn, being willing to grow is such a big part of that. So all right, you feel something. Okay, I wonder why. Let's think about that for a minute. Let's spend some time with that instead of like immediately either crushing it down or outwardly doing something about it. It's just so, to me it just reads as deep inauthenticity for someone who comes that hard at something. Like instead of taking a moment to wonder why you're feeling this way. Okay, cool. Feelings aren't bad, but let's do some detective work and figure out why I'm feeling this way and what is it, And nine
Yes.
times out of ten, it's a lifelong thing. It's something that like I can trace so many things back to when I was a kid, and not in like a therapy, like blame the parents, blame the mom kind of way, but just
Right.
literally, honestly, like looking back at it and going like, oh yeah, these are defenses I put in place when I was a kid, and they were necessary then. They were things that got me through social situations at school, like maybe it was at home, whatever it is, like there, and it could be little things, the tiny little things that are just the way that my perspective works now and the way that I react to things. Oh, now I can see that was a defense put in place for something that is no longer a threat to me. So I can work on doing away with that. I don't need that defense anymore. And now that defense just gets in my way when something triggers that same fight or flight kind of thing. When my kids pop off at me, it is not the same thing as getting bullied in high school. It feels the same, and the lizard brain, triggers the same, but it's not the same thing. And I can look at that and go, oh, the reason a 4-year-old can make me so mad is because what a 4-year-old's doing is sounding like a 17-year-old who's bullying me, and it makes me scared. But this is not a 17-year-old, this is a 4-year-old, and I can unravel that so as to most of the time not pop off at my kids the way that my instinct tells me to. Most of the time I do.
Exactly. Well, and a friend of mine, he and I were talking, and it's just like, you had that lizard brain, that initial kick in moment, like that knee jerk, that reflex. And then you got the second thought. The first thing is what someone else put in there, whether it's a bully or a parent that gave you a hassle about a specific situation or whatever. And then the second thing you do is what the work that you have done, what you've put into it to make sure that you continue to move forward and grow through it, because there's a problem, because you lash out at something that has nothing to do with it. Something that you mentioned about your kids, as well as these kids that we had to deal with whenever we were in high school. I don't honestly think there was any malice in it. It was just the way they were raised. Was it
Sure.
pleasant? No. Was it any kind of kind? Not at all. Was it somebody that really wanted to hurt me and do bad by me? No. It was just probably them dealing with their own insecurity, and it's better to like look at the guy who sings and dances
Yeah.
instead of worrying about me because I'm not as good on the field as I hope I could be at this ball sport that will mean
Yeah.
nothing to me in 5 years.
Yeah.
But right now it is the center of my universe.
Because their
Cool.
defenses have built that their parents are only going to love them if they can do that, or whatever it is, any number of things.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
It's either the truth or it's a perception. Either way, it might as well be the same thing in their minds. And
Yeah.
so I'm going to give them grace. It's not going to keep me from getting bigger and better in my later years and be smarter human being. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
So,
really well put. I love that.
thanks, bud. Now, along these same kind of lines, I would love to say I'm thrilled that you're here with us on Radical Joy. You and I have talked about this on many an occasion, and I really hope that at some point in the very near future, you will also be doing a podcast, because I love hearing you talk on these topics. Number one. Two, I think your takes on them are absolutely fantastic. And three, I would love to see them in a little more like current event situation. Once you put your socials out there, they're there forever. And some of them are a little bit newer than others, and you get little pops from something from a couple of years back. In a podcast, it's just a little bit more current. Are there plans on the horizon for something like that? If not, would you please consider it more seriously for me? Because I love what you have to say about so many of these things.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And frankly, I really respect your take because you do such a great job with this one. Yes. So I think that I can blame the lack of productivity so far on two things. One is some of that fear, some of like, will people listen? Is it actually going to matter, or is it just me being, self-aggrandizing? And I am closer to being able to feel like, I guess I can't convince myself people need to hear it, but I have gotten closer to convincing myself, well, if they don't listen, who cares? There's really no downside to it. There's nothing, no one's gonna tar and feather me for doing a podcast. I don't think it's gonna be a major problem. If it ends up a tree falling in the woods with no one around, that's fine. There's really no harm there. The other thing, and to be totally honest, is just my adult ADD is just like some days I have the hardest time keeping anything straight. And so like I need a great producer like you have, so maybe she wants to talk to me at some point, but I do need like I've got idea my best friend Tom and I he's a guy here in New York and he's gay and we're working on a podcast together about just us as friends talking and chatting things out and current events kind of like you're saying.
Yeah.
And I've worked on I've played with in my own brain some solo stuff. And I've been inspired by you, some interview stuff and some solo kind of stuff like this. Um, I mean, honestly, it's like you can go back through. It's the exact same thing as if you go through my socials, you'll see like I do. They're all one-offs. Sure, there are like overall themes that kind of whatever will come back up for sure. But there's not really, except for Yolanda. Since Yolanda, there's not really storytelling that goes on
Uh-huh.
because I just lose the thread. Like I'll start a thing. I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna do a series on whatever. I'm gonna do this new series on I don't know on movies I've watched. I'm gonna just whatever. I don't know and I just lose the thread. I just lose like even with the merch, like the shirts and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Which by the way, just real quick to give a plug, all of the profits we donate to different kind of smaller organizations. And so this month we've got some stuff going to. I don't have the name in front of me. I'll send it to you. Maybe we can put it in the copy. But it's
Absolutely.
the Center for Autism Awareness in Ohio, kind of a local guy. The Autism Dad on Instagram is a dude who's just he's great at being a calming presence in the world of like dealing with kids with autism, deal with adults with autism, and so um, for this is kind of in reactions the same shirts and kind of in reaction to the past month the absurd reclaiming that autism has anything to do with vaccinations, which is a totally debunked. Total, it's nothing. It's garbage. It's nothing. It's been completely debunked by
Yes.
anyone who matters. But
Yes.
we have heads of state at microphones saying that it might have something to do with it, which it doesn't. So anyway, this month we're donating the profits to a walk for autism awareness that they're doing. But the merch stuff is like great, and I love it. And also then it'll go weeks and just like I lose the thread and I forget to do anything with it. I don't promote it and I don't do anything else with it. So I don't know how else. mm, I will softly commit to working harder at focusing so that I can get some of these things done. I would love to have a podcast going. I would love to have some of this stuff going because a lot of my social media is kind of this. Someone told me one time that the Yolanda beef was like the Kelsey Bowl, the Super Bowl that the Kelsey brothers played in, because there's
True.
really no losers. Like, yeah, it's competitive, but there's a
Yeah.
winner either way. And
And
I
they're there for the
love,
story, not the score. It truly.
yeah, I like
Yeah.
social media being that way. I like when my social media presence is kind of a calming, fun place. I also
Yes.
just think that when there are fascists in charge, you have to say out loud there are fascists in charge. So I have
Yes.
a hard time not doing that. But I kind of feel like I could do that, like you're saying. I could be a little more current, a little more honest as far as like the language I use and the approach that I use on, a podcast or a YouTube channel, something like that. And then I'll save Instagram for the important stuff like hair and nails.
Agree. Because that's the best part. There's only like 74 different platforms for whatever it is you're feeling like doing. Because you could Twitch or you could do any number of things where people would love to show up and just kind of like chit chat with you. Can't tell you the thrill I get whenever I'm watching some of my favorite creators on live and I'll send them a question. They're like, oh, yeah, hey, great question. Let me da 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 da. That is engagement. Like, I know I'm not in the room. I get that feeling though. And it just is like over the moon, especially for people who look to people like you. I don't want to put any pressure on you specifically, but like, I want to learn to do these things for my kids because it looks like you're a really caring dad. And I want to be that kind of dad, but I'm honestly struggling with getting past my childhood and those kind of things there. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel I'm good at it. Any number of reasons I can come up with to not do the thing. I get it. It's not judgment. It's just like, hey, I see you because I promise you I deal with that too. Same thing with your ADD. I've had a couple of friends reach out to me and ask me very pointy questions like, look, I don't know. I've never been diagnosed. I know I deal with things because I have Instagram. So I can tell that like a lot of these symptoms seem very familiar. So, and you're right, having a producer like the one that I've got is wonderful because she sets very clear deadlines for me. I need this many uh, episodes in the tank by this date. Is that doable? And I can do it in small bites because if I can get everything in small bites, we're golden. Whenever I start thinking about this monolithic, I can never even think of getting past this obstacle, freeze, executive dysfunction. The whole thing just grinds to a halt. Being able to have someone who knows your production style is great. So they can sort of like guide you through it without telling you how to do it, because then I get all bucked up about that too. It's super. And the thing that I found in working in the social media stuff that I do is that if you take a little time off because you need it, you'll just be that much more delicious when you find another streak to enjoy, because people are like, oh my God, we're so glad you're back. Well, that's a nice thing to say. And like, you've got a life, man. Like, you've got kids and you've got the booze business and you've got all of the other things that are like weighing on your mind and heart. And so I think that a lot of people, though, yes, they definitely want their hit of Jay Gregg as often as they can get it. Sometimes folks just got to realize that this is made up and my real life is happening over here. And so y'all give me a little grace and I'll come back here ready to really give you something instead of just struggling or running or scrambling. Nah, nobody loves to see that. Everybody knows it's happening. It's cool. And sometimes, honest to God, the struggle video puts people so much more at ease. Like, oh, okay, good. This is somebody I feel familiar with because I've seen him on my camera or on my phone so much. And he deals with the same kind of stuff. He's got a sassy 4-year-old. He's got a 2-year-old that, yeah, she's going to conquer the world. Totally. That's so relatable. And it's just the authenticity, the sincerity, and just, again, finding the time to do it because I know your plate is so full.
Well, I appreciate you saying all that. And yeah, I mean, I think that I just got to get back on the horse. Not back on. I just got to get on the horse. I gotta get in the game, off the bench, whatever phrase I'm supposed
Whatever
to use.
metaphor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, it ain't nothing to it but to do it, I guess, is the next step for me.
That's it. Well, and that's just it. I don't want to push because I know I like, again, I buck up. What I do want to say is I leave the door wide open because I love your voice. I love what you've got to say about it. And just the entire packaging of the whole thing just makes me feel so solid whenever I get to watch and enjoy it. It's really aspirational in a way, not to blow you up. I'm not trying to make you feel uncomfortable or awkward, but it's like, yeah, good. This is what's going on. And I dig it. It's good to know that there are people out there who are crushing it. And it's not easy every single day. Sweet. Cool. Great.
Thanks, man.
And
I really appreciate hearing that. That's really, especially coming from you. That's really kind. I really appreciate that. Thank
you
you.
got it, bud. And now remind me again, there was some scuttle on the internet about your eyelashes at some point.
Yeah, they seem to be a bit of a hit. Yeah. Here's the funny thing, and this is just, I think that one of my skills is I can take any compliment and turn it into a critique, just for me. That's just me, right? But I think that it's perfect. I think it's perfect. I think it's cosmically exactly right that a people are commenting on this thing that has a feminine history to it, right? Like, I mean, it is certainly when we talk about gender roles, a lot of people have not spent a lot of time throughout history talking about men's eyelashes, I don't think. But B, it's something that I can really do nothing about. Or I mean, I guess I could, but I don't do anything about it. As much effort as I put into my body and my face and my teeth and my belly and whatever, my hair, whatever else, the eyelashes literally just are. They're just
Yes.
the way the good Lord made them, and I frankly love the fact that the thing that stands out to people, I have zero control over.
Exactly. I have no control. And I love that you say that because that's it. Like all these other kind of things, you can work on your physique, you can work on your education, you can be a more literate or more loquacious human being. Fantastic. They ain't jack diddle squirt you can do about an eyelash except buy some more.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And it's funny you say that too, because yeah, they do have a bit of like a feminine connotation to them over the years in the history of, again, something that just grows out of our faces. We have no
Right.
control. And you see these guys again who have this incredible, like overwhelming fear of being seen in any feminine light whatsoever, who are trimming their eyelashes, which serve a biological purpose, a physiological reason they are there is to protect your eyes and mucous membranes. But because these people are so unbelievably fragile, they would rather cut off these luscious eyelashes that serve a purpose so people don't think that they are fill in the blank with anything
Yeah.
other than some sort of alpha male bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the counterproductivity, the self-sabotage over
The
what you're
energy.
afraid. Yeah, it's just so much. It's so much work to
It's
get.
so much work. Like it's I think of plate spinning on dowels. You've seen
Hmm.
those old talent shows or whatever. You can't stop. You something somewhere always needs your attention instead of just kind of like living in who you are
Yeah.
and just trying to be good to the people who love you and love them back the best you can. It's really not that hard.
Yeah.
And all this other superfluous nonsense is just taking away from that, from people who want it from you and quite frankly probably deserve it. So
Yeah. I think that's a great way to put it.
thank you, bud. Now let's get into a little bit of the real life fun. Like, these are all amazing things. I love what you're putting out into the world because I think people now more than ever need to hear it from a dude. Awesome. Like, tell me more about what you get to do as far as like work, like the booze distribution. This sounds amazing.
So around that time, when I decided that I could take a real break from performance, I needed to make money and provide for my family in a more financially secure kind of way. I started working for, frankly, my family's company. My brother-in-law and my cousin are entrepreneurs, and they've been working together for years. And they've started a couple of companies, and they've helped other companies grow. And recently, well, I guess this is 2 years ago now, they were doing some. They started a company called TAG, TAG, the Acceleration Group, and it's like a financial partner for spirits brands. So small time spirits companies that are trying to, your local vodka maker who is trying to get in somewhere, and they can't compete with the Tito's of the world, or whatever, the Dos Caminos of the world. They can't compete with these big brands. And one of the ways that they are held back from doing that is financially. When you produce, you make your booze, you finally get the bottle you want, the label you want, and the booze inside it you want, and you sell it, and somebody says, great, we love it, we want 1,000 more cases of that, and you go, I don't have any money to do that, and they go, well, we'll pay you 60 days after you deliver those 1,000 cases, and you go, I'm never gonna be able to do that. So
Yeah.
the first step was as a financial partner there, and then just through that and through kind of being operations for that, and I came on that just as like a salesperson, as an account manager, just helping out. Excuse me, just helping out with that, and then just through entrepreneurship and innovation, we've ended up acquiring and helping out, like in a more official capacity, a couple of different brands. And so we've got Bradshaw Bourbon, which is Terry Bradshaw. He's the man behind it, and it's his bourbon.
Nice.
And I spent last week with him, a couple of days last week, and he's still just an absolute blast. I mean, he's a really fun. The second day we were together, I was way too hungover from the bourbon we had been drinking, and I felt like garbage. And he spent the whole day shaking hands and signing bottles and kissing babies and whatever. Like he was just like unfazed, and I felt like a real trash piece of like a real piece of trash human at the time, because he was nailing it, and I could not hold it together. Um, so that like and that's been kind of fun. It's the business side of things, but really it always feels to me um like an ensemble performance. Like we all, it's a startup mentality, but I always kind of bristle at the idea of startup because it feels very like Silicon Valley startup to me, and like tech startup and whatever. Like there's an ickiness that can come with that, and it's business, so I guess anyone can find an ickiness with anything. But what I really love about this is that it's a really small team, and it really is all hands on deck. We figure it out as we go. That's why I've ended up with the title director of operations, but really that's just because there were enough things along the way that needed to get figured out, and I was the one figuring out this group of things, and so now I am in charge of production. I oversee production, and so but literally what that means is finding bottles and finding someone that can print labels and finding cardboard boxes and get it all shipped to the same place, and then finding the, making sure we have enough of the bourbon to get into those bottles, and then getting those bottles on trucks and getting them out. Um, and so it's really, it feels like a small, like a New York, like a small New York show that goes, all right, well, we have an opening date. We got to get open. So let's figure it out. Let's get open.
Exactly, right? Well, we don't know if we're ready, but God knows there's
Yeah.
going to be butts in the seats in half an hour, so we
Yeah,
best get to it. Yes.
exactly.
You
It's funny,
are,
man.
oh,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was about to say you're so well equipped for that because God knows we've been in a million shows exactly like that. You
Yeah.
work so hard and you do your thing. Not
Mhm.
everyone's on the same page at the same time. And you're just like, well, the lights go up, the curtain parts, and away we go. Super.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. What's really funny, and you know what? Like it sounds a little high horsey, and I will say I'll get on a high horse for just a second because one thing I've realized is that in this kind of production is dealing with a lot of other companies, there's a lot of people that I and other whatever. There's a lot of other business industry people to deal with, and not to a person, but a lot more than I expected to find is a lack of work ethic. And like I'm talking like I always thought that I was moderate to low as far as like work ethic goes, because you meet performers and you deal with people who are just type A, like it's all work all the time, and there's perfection on the table here. And I was always kind of like, we'll make it good, we'll do our best, but like there's got to be time for some life or whatever. And now I'm realizing like, oh, that is there's a dearth of work ethic in a lot of industry spots out there. And frankly, that has taken some real mindfulness and some real work to get around that, because it drives me bonkers. I hate it so much. And then I
Yeah.
realize like, all right, well now I'm starting to sound like the asshole around here. So let's pull it back and let's see if we can like help everyone along here. But because the truth of it really is like, man, just do your job on time. It's driving me crazy. We have an
Right?
opening night. We have an opening night, whether you like it or not. People, they're gonna be butts in seats. We got to get this done. So it's that has been a learning curve for me to chill out and not be, too on to figure out how to communicate the urgency without an anxiety inducing urgency.
Yes. And I love that you say that because it brings to mind the fact your expectations on yourself, like general you, are usually much, much higher than everyone else's. So whenever you come to the table with what you consider to be a kind of like middle of the road work ethic, actually turns out to be a really great work ethic especially whenever you take into account your audience or whoever's close. Great. What we're going to do is be like, okay, super good. It's just nice to be reminded of that so
Yeah.
often. Because whenever I think I've got a middle of the road work ethic and then I get around a group of other people, it starts to sort of settle in somewhere different than I had originally thought. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And I have a tendency to get down on myself, or think lesser of me, which is not usually an issue that I have. And then we adjust, we assess it, we fix it, and we keep plowing forward. Anytime you want to be on a high horse on Radical Joy, you saddle up, Buckaroo, because you are always welcome to ride that steed as high as you like in his house.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
think that I feel like this is another way in which we are kindred souls. Is like effort. Effort is one thing, and work ethic is one thing. But care for a product, care for whatever it is that you're doing. Like I might not be the best at something, and there's plenty of skill that I don't have. But when it comes to, we have a job to finish, and we need to finish that job, and we have a deadline to finish that job, and there's an expectation that goes with that job. I don't really know anything that's not meeting that. Like I don't know any other way, and it doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it means stress, and sometimes there are certainly things that I can work out on my side that are still not at a I haven't perfected all of that, but I do know that I have a drive to bring whatever is my best, whatever that means, to bring my best to a thing that I'm doing. And I think that's kind of the thing is like you get down, like you specifically, James, you might get down on yourself because you have high expectations for yourself and high expectations for the thing that you want out there, for the thing you want, whether it's a product or whatever it is, just an energy, whatever it is you're putting out there, you know what good looks like, you know what great looks like, and you want to meet that. And it's easy to get down on yourself when you feel like you're not hitting that target. And I think my biggest problem, and it's not just the capacity to work is one thing. I feel like I can understand I have a ceiling to my capacity and I like trying to grow it, but there's always going to be some ceiling to that. But the mentality behind it, behind and that comes from performance. I think a lot of it is like we don't really know. We know that we had $100 budget to put the show together in the church gym in Queens, New York. Like I
Yes.
don't know. I don't know how it's going to
Yeah.
be, but I know we all care a lot about it and we want it to be the best that we can make it.
Yes, absolutely. And I have seen that show once or twice. I have come to watch you in this show once or twice.
Yeah,
Pardon
not a
me, because when you
hypothetical.
say that, buddy, I can almost smell the lambs. Okay. Like I can feel myself going down the stairs to go to the bathroom in this before we start the show. Ah, yes.
Yeah, not a made up theoretical. There's a church
No,
convention.
that is very much a real thing. This is not some made up nothing. Yeah. Yes. And I think, yeah, I'll never forget at the same place where we worked together. I remember some a young lady that worked with us. She told me one day, she's like, I understand your problem, Bullard. And just right off the cuff, it's like, well, please enlighten me because clearly I am not getting the message. She's like, you got too much give shit. She says, sometimes you got to let that go. She says, I admire it. She says, it's wonderful. It's a great thing to have. It's not something a lot of people have in as much quantity as you. And there are some things that do not matter as much as you want to give to them. Fix it. I was like, wow. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Wow,
She was
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Totally read me for filth in the best way possible. And she was right. Sometimes, and even if I think I got a ton of it, some things don't need our full blast. They just don't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's okay too. That's another thing I'm learning. Gosh knows the older I get and the less stupid I become, like, oh, that's what she was talking about. This is literally one of those moments and I love it. So now one thing I want to make sure that we cover, we have a very good friend. Jonathan introduced me to this man and I want to make sure that I give him a huge shout out and a big fat wad of love, Mr. Sean Cleary. I'm sure he'll be listening to this because he's just that kind of human being. He has basically single-handedly taken on a mantle of making sure that anyone and everyone within the sound of his voice or his reach knows all about women's rugby. And I love it. His enthusiasm is infectious. The kind of man he is fantastic. And I just want to make sure he knows that we are thinking of him very fondly right here, right now, today.
Absolutely. So yeah, well, I mean, he brought us together. Well, I guess I brought y'all together,
Yeah.
which it was under Sean's guidance that we went to the NRL matches last year, the National Rugby League. Sean is kind of like us. We're from Alabama, and we've lived our lives. Sean is from Toowoomba, Queensland, and I think that's more like the south of the world, right? So
Right.
he brought with him to America his love of rugby, and I think it's kind of the same thing as doing hair and any of this stuff. It's a love of sport. It's a love of rugby, and there is now the Women's Elite Rugby League in the WER, and there's a New York team, the New York Exiles, and you're right, he is passionate about it, just as anyone would be passionate about the sport that they love. And I think it's great. It's so much fun. It was fun to watch with him. It's been fun to learn from him. And again, like with my ADD and my bandwidth, I have a hard time always keeping up. I barely keep up with the sports that I have spent my life watching. So adding a new one in, the logistics of it and the keeping up with it is sometimes tough, but Sean is great. He's a great fan guide. If anybody out there is looking for a new sport to get into, the WER and following Sean Cleary is certainly the way to do that.
And it is a beautiful thing to watch. Those women are so good.
Oof.
They play as a cohesive unit like nothing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The strength, the skill, the athleticism is absolutely off the charts. And there are many, if not all of those women that I would rather, enter the ring with a bear than cross any of them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's for sure.
Wow. Just the
Strength for
grit.
days. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to make sure that we talk to him, make sure that we give him a really kind-hearted and a big, fat, loving salute right here from Radical Joy because he's amazing people. I don't know how to fit this into the conversation, but I need for it to be said. whenever Jonathan and I met, it was years and years ago. And shortly after that, we both got into fitness pretty deep. Now, Jonathan also did a lot of instruction, whatever. And I remember there is a photo shoot. If you go deep enough into his socials, he looks like a feather plucking superhero. And the lighting and the shadow, he is butt ass naked, but you can't tell because it was very tastefully done. And I was like, wow, this guy, because you mentioned earlier about making sure that you devote the time that you need to things that make you feel like a better human being, a little bit more in control of whatever, or things that you really enjoy doing, and fitness is among them. And I'm just like, yes. And to be fair, I know that took a lot of effort. I think a lot of the most important things in our lives do take an effort on that level. And the things that you do show that you have invested that kind of work ethic and effort into them, the way you raise your children, the way you are a partner and husband, the way you are an incredible friend, the way you are an employee as well as director of operations. So many of these comes together. They are all their own separate entity, and yet they all are so similar. It's just literally copy and paste an operating system so that you know that I'm not spinning plates. They're one plate on one dowel. And all you got to do is just make sure it stays on top. And I think you do a great job of all of that. Just so I, pump you up a little bit. I'm like, hey, if you're starting to feel a little bit wobbly, if that plate starts to wiggle a little unpredictably, you hit me up. I will definitely let you know what it is I think you're doing well and where we might be able to explore some other options.
I love that. Thanks, man. I mean, that's the contact that we have is frankly selfish as much as anything else, because you make me feel great, man. You always have a perspective that makes me feel great. It's fun to be around you, and it's fun to see you as aspirational as well. But it's frankly it's selfish because you just make me feel really good.
Good. That's what I want, because I tell you, I admire you. I do. I think a lot of you. I think very highly of you. I have ever since I really got to know the kind of person you are, and that continues to show up, and it continues to prove me right. And sometimes I get hurt by the folks that I put a lot of faith in. And I promise you, at every step along the way, you've shown me exactly the kind of person I thought you were, and you just keep building. So well done, friend. I look forward to seeing what comes next for you in the world.
Thank you, ma'am. I really appreciate that. And yeah, it feels a little hollow to say samesies, but
I'll take it. I'll take it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here at Radical Joy. Jonathan, thank you for being our guest here today. You are a ray of sunshine and a whole lot of our meat right here for us on Radical Joy. We appreciate you, buddy.
It's my absolute pleasure, man. This is great. I like it's selfish. I feel great now. I'm going to spend the rest of the day feeling great. So thank you.
Absolutely. If this is your first episode of Radical Joy, welcome. Man, you could not have picked a better time to come on up in here and say hi, especially for anybody out there who consider themselves a dude. Welcome. Come join the club. We're going to braid hair, and we're going to paint nails, and we're going to cut grass, and we're going to smoke all the damn meat. Yes. If this is not your first episode, welcome back, friends. Thank you so much for putting enough faith in us here at Radical Joy and CLW Studios to spend your very valuable time here with us every single week. If you're the kind of person who loves to leave a review, please do so. Leave us 5 stars on whatever platform where you're listening. Send us a screenshot. We would love to send you some swag. Chances are it's going to be a sticker that you can put on a journal or a water bottle or a laptop, anywhere you love to stick a sticker. Season 3 has come with a brand new look, and we would love to update whatever you've got going to make sure that the important people in your life know what it is you're doing whenever you're listening to podcasts. As always, friends, welcome. Thank you so much for listening, and please never forget just how much we love y'all.